Okay, good afternoon. Thanks for joining Robert Vilahamn's press conference. We are previewing our League Cup game against Aston Villa this weekend. We will have questions in the room and online. If you're joining on the online feed, please use the raise hand function to ask questions. We'll kick off in the room with George.
Hi, Robert. Good to see you. Tough loss last time out. When you've sort of reviewed the game this week and looked at what you sort of felt were the areas you could get better, what were the sort of areas that were the difference, do you feel like, between yourselves and Arsenal?
I think if you compare that game to last season against Arsenal at the same stadium, we had a tough start of that game as well, but they had hit the post, they didn't score an early goal, and we kind of grow into that game with the fans and feeling like it was 0-0. This game was obviously a tough start. We were not really aggressive and blocking that shot, and then we were trying a tactical where we were supposed to go a little bit more for counter-attacks and have a good shape to defend, but it made us a little bit more passive instead of aggressive, and then they had 2-0, and second half is much better. We started the second half in a good way. We did go back to the 4-2-3-1 and had a quite good end of the game. But the majority is that Arsenal is a better team than us right now, and they beat us because they are better.
It's obviously been a difficult period, difficult season, but different competition to focus on this weekend. Is it nice to kind of have a new change of direction? You move away from WSL, you can focus on the Conti Cup.
Yeah, I think mentally it's actually quite nice to go into a cup game. Obviously, a cup is something that can take you to a title in a shorter distance as well, so you want to compete. But also to make sure we get some, bouncing back from these tough games we have had and tough results, right? To go into a game where we want to win, we have a good chance to win, but it also doesn't affect the table. We can actually go into this game, make sure we use players and the bravery in this game to make sure it's a cup game and not a league game. So mentally it feels good. I think the players this weekend also was like, we had a good first meeting in the beginning of the week, and then we have looked forward to this game and what we're going to improve and what we're going to do for this game. And I feel like the players are looking forward instead of backwards, which is actually really nice because the trainings have been great, and then the feeling of the group is actually good. So I'm happy with that.
And just finally from me, how important is this competition? Obviously you made the FA Cup final last year. You actually did well in this competition last year. Is this a competition you sort of really want the team to attack?
I think you want to compete in all the competitions you participate in, and I think you want to go for a cup run this season. I'm not going to lie, I think the FA Cup is even stronger cup than this cup, but it's still a cup that you're going to compete with. And when you compete for Tottenham to go and get the trophy, we want to make sure we play a good team, then we try to go for the title. But it's a group stage, we play against a good opponent. We still have Crystal Palace after this game as well, but obviously we want to have a good performance and a good result tomorrow, so we have a good chance to go to the quarterfinal.
Okay, we'll move to questions on the online feed. We'll come first to Alex.
Afternoon, Robert. I hope you're well. Firstly, could we just get team news for tomorrow?
So Luana got a knock on the game against Arsenal, so she's out for a few weeks, but hopefully just a few weeks. Drew Spence is sick, so she will not be in the squad tomorrow. Maite Oros is training now, warm up with the team, so she's taking steps, but she's not ready in perhaps a few weeks there. But otherwise, everyone else is ready to compete for tomorrow.
You kind of mentioned it a bit earlier on, but obviously the League Cup, most teams normally use it as an opportunity to give minutes to squad players. Does kind of Spurs' situation change that at the moment? Are you in a case of maybe you want to kind of stick with the first team and try and build some confidence and momentum?
I think it's a mixture, because this time we play on a Saturday. So it's normally when you have a midweek game, then it's very good to rotate the squad and make sure everybody get the minutes. So normally we have changed the whole 11. I think now we are in a situation where we are, like you said, should we find a way to bounce back and get a good self-confidence in the squad? But I still want to make sure we use the squad. So it's going to be a mixture, I would say. You're going to see a few new faces, but it's also going to be some players that play again from the last game. So it's a mixture, but I think it's a really strong 11 we put on the pitch and a strong squad for tomorrow. And it's a good way for us to bounce back after a few really tough games.
And just one more from me on Aston Villa. Of course, you played them already this season. 2-2 draw, and I'm probably on paper in that match. Aston Villa were probably the slightly better team. I was just wondering kind of what you made of their performances this season, because obviously they haven't picked up their first league win on Sunday, but like kind of maybe felt a bit, didn't tell the truth joy.
Yeah, I mean it's quite interesting this season with some results and performances and who's winning games. I think Crystal Palace had some really good chances against Aston Villa the other game and came back in that game, and then a brilliant goal from Evan Salmon, right? So when we played Aston Villa, we didn't reach the level we want to do, and we didn't really play the way we wanted to do. We still got a draw, which was good, but we also know that the only way for us to improve and beat Aston Villa is to make sure we nail the game plan, the way we want to play, the way we want to press. And if we do that, we know that we can compete against Aston Villa, definitely. But I'm also aware that they have, signed some really good players this season. They have a new coach. They are quite good in many of the games, actually. So it's going to be a tough game. But I'm learning in this league and this country that all the games is extremely competitive. So you need to be on your toes. You need to make sure you do the right stuff. Otherwise, you have a tough day. So we're going to do everything we can to play our style and make sure we win tomorrow.
Perfect. Thank you. Best of luck tomorrow.
Cheers.
Dan.
Hey, Robert, hope you're well. Just going back to what you're saying there to Alex and referring to the 2-2 draw. Obviously both teams like to attack, both teams like to score goals. Do you see a similar game tomorrow?
Yeah, definitely. I don't think they will do anything than the opposite, and we will definitely not do anything than the opposite. So I think it's going to be a good football game with two attacking teams, hopefully a few goals from our side. And then, the main thing for us is to keep building the momentum of what we want to do. And even if we have a few really tough results in other games, to not, change too much. We need to do what we're good at, and we need to develop the way we want to play. So, it's a cup game, so it's also everything to win in a cup game. You don't really need to think too much about it because it's not an impact on your league results. So I think we're going for it tomorrow.
Obviously, you've had a really tough run of fixtures. Looking ahead about the next 6 games, I don't think you play any of the top teams. So, what have you learned from the last few weeks, and what do you want to see from your side between now and I think it's February the next time you play one of the top teams?
Yeah, I think it's when you reflect on it, and we speak about expectations, and when we play against the top 5 from last season in the last 6 games, obviously we lost all 5 of them, which is not good. If you look at expectations, and last season when we played against the top 5, we played 10 games obviously in the league, and we only won one of those 10 games. So to expect to beat the top 5 or top 4 Liverpool, we should absolutely compete against. The other thing is, do you expect us to beat the top 4? I mean, I want to do it, we aim for it, but to expect it, I don't think we are there yet. And I think if we don't do everything right in the defense work and in the press, we obviously lose those games. And when I reflect on that is when you get them as a cluster, when you work, play them in a really tight period of time, you also put an effect on your self-confidence and everything you do about it. So coming into the next games now is obviously games you might expect us to win or have better result, and I agree with that. So now we need to make sure we build a self-confidence, the identity again, so we don't lose the momentum on who we are and how we want to play, because we can still lose games against these next upcoming games, but we should definitely have more expectations to have better performances and better results. But you always learn where you are and what you need to improve, and this is just some evidence that we do some good stuff and some stuff we need to improve on, both me as a coach, players on the pitch, the organization and everything. So you learn everything, even if you don't win all the time, so you learn a lot. And then you just need to make sure you do something about it instead of just sitting here every year and saying that you lose every time.
That's brilliant. Thanks, Robert. Best of luck. Thank you.
Cheers.
Chris Brooks.
Hi, Robert. Vilahamn has been on loan in Chicago. Obviously, their season's over now. What is the situation with her? Are you planning to give her a little break, a longer break? And is she going to be involved in the matchday squad again soon? What's the situation with her?
So Rosella is already back and train with us, not right now, because she's done with the season over there. But her loan period is running until Christmas, so she's not available until then. And when we start up after that, it's a discussion. Is she competing for the spots here, or does she want to go on loan again? We're not there yet where we discuss that. She's just back in training with good energy and helping the team to prepare for this game. So it's nice to have her back. She's a great character.
I think a lot of people have loved the sort of outlook that you've brought to Spurs and the commitment to want to attack. There was a comment, Robert, on the TV coverage of the Arsenal game by a pundit who felt that Spurs were playing a style that doesn't suit the players you currently have. Do you feel any of that yourself at the moment, where there's things you're trying to do, but it's not currently working, either because of you're not being there yet in development, or maybe Matteo being unavailable, things like that? Where do you kind of feel you are on that? Do you agree with that opinion?
I mean, we have a certain style in an identity in Tottenham, how we want to play attacking football. I have a certain style how I want to play and be brave on the build-up, and to do that you need to be very good on the ball. You need to have a very good first touch. You need to have a very good, strong movement in the possession and so on. So some of the players we play now has been here for a few years. They have developed to handle it. Some players are more suitable than others. So Maite is probably one of those who are most suitable to play the way we want to play. If you don't have her, other one will play, and then it might affect the outcome. But it's a journey where you want to develop the players you have and recruit players that suits the way you want to play. So perhaps sometimes you push too much, but that's the way you need to do it, because otherwise you will never develop the players you have. If you're only doing the opposite, it's going to affect the development. I think the mixture of everything, what you have here, what the squad we have now, the signings for the next window, for the next summer window, going to take us to the top. I think last season we played some really good football with the first squad we had as well. So you can develop players to that stage, but it's also an opponent who is really good, and then sometimes you cannot handle those opponents. So perhaps big games against the big top clubs, we are not really there with this squad to play that certain style. But the only way to get there is to try to push for it, and then you need to be able to handle some losses as well. So in one way I agree, in another way I don't agree, because we are on a journey where we want to develop, and to develop you need to do stuff, and you need to be brave, and you need to handle losses, even if it's tough.
Thank you, Robert. Take care.
Cheers.
Chris Cowlin.
Hello, Robert. Last week performance against Arsenal, you said it was tough. It was tough to lose again 5 and 6. What's the mood in the camp like at the moment amongst the players? Because it can't be easy in the dressing room losing that amount of games.
No, I mean, you think that it's it's robots we work with, but it's people, right? And we are people. The staff is people, and the fans is people. So it's a lot of emotions. And I think after the game was quite much frustration and anger and sadness and everything, right? And we had a great meeting in the beginning of the week where I used to let everybody speak with emotions first before we reflected on the game. I wanted to hear everything they feel, to make sure we put it out there and make sure you are allowed to say whatever you want. And then from that talk with the group, we kind of started to focus on what do we need to focus on for the next game, instead of just looking back and see what was bad in that game and so on. So we tried to make sure this is what we feel right now, this is not good enough, this is what we need to improve. Okay, now we focus on what should we do now for the game against Aston Villa. And when we left that meeting on Monday, I think we have had a great week with good trainings, good intensity, good performances and competition in training. And I think it's been one of the best weeks in training. Mentally, much better again. But you know what? It's going to be a game tomorrow where we can win and lose, and then you might be back again. But if you feel like you just want to have the happy days when you're a coach or a player, then you are in the wrong spot. So I think you just need to get back again and get back again. So no matter how much fight and how much you lose, how much you struggle, you need to find ways to get better and better. That's how a winner thinks and how a winner do. And I think the players and the coaching team and everybody is trying to find a way to get back and play that football and win again. So we will never give up. We will keep going. And I actually am very impressed this week how they handled this week, because five losses in 6 games is not the easiest way to handle, actually. But it's a learning that you can use in experience, and it's also something that we're going to be strong of in the future when we go through this period of time and getting back on track.
How important is it then, Robert, to get back to winning ways? Because when you lose that amount of games, 5 and 6, of course this is a cup game, but does it make you want to go stronger, a stronger starting 11, just because you want to get back to winning ways, because it's important to get back on that winning track?
Yeah, in one way, yes. I think you cannot fake wins with good stats or whatever. You need to win games to build self-confidence. But I actually feel like the Everton game coming up after the national team break is actually more important than a cup game where we are in a way. So I'm going to make sure I'm actually giving a few players minutes tomorrow as well, because I want to have that competition where we feel like who's going to start against Everton in the next game as well. And we have some really good competition on some positions. So we're going to go for the win tomorrow, and we're going to make sure we have a strong 11. But I'm definitely using a few players to show where they are tomorrow as well, because I want to have that competition for the Everton game, and we're still going to have a good chance to beat Aston Villa tomorrow.
Lastly, Robert, I just wanted to ask, have you spoke to anyone at the club? Are they still very much on board with what you're doing? Because, are they seeing it that you've just played tough opposition and they are completely understandable, see your long-term vision and understand that you've faced really tough opposition and there's a huge gap?
Yeah, I mean, I speak to board members every week, and I can promise you they are extremely giving us the support. It's not a issue there at all, to be honest. And the main thing, we do it with the men's team and the women's team. We always look at, okay, where are we? What do we perform now? We look at data. We look at everything. And to be honest, the run we have had with some of the games is tough, but we have lost the games, so we cannot be anything about that. If you look at stats, I think we have an expected goal to receive 1.3 goals per game these 8 games, but we have received 2.6 goals in this game. So it's, of course, the numbers show stuff that we need to improve on. And in the possession and in the creating chances and scoring goals, everything is not darkness in how we play and how we do it, but it's a combination of how you want to compete against the top teams and what you need to be really good at. So once again, the only game we won against top 5 last season was Arsenal at the stadium. Of 10 games, we won 1. And I can promise you that game was not too many possession, not too many goal chances for us. It was a lot of goal chances for Arsenal. So we just need to be aware that as well. Like, if you expect us to win against the top teams, it's too early to expect that. You should have the hope for it. You should aim for it, and we should try to do it. But if we don't succeed with individual details, tactical details, we lose those games, because those squads are much stronger than ours right now. So the board knows that. They know what we're doing. They know how much we're going to invest every year to grow organically, and emotionally you're always going to be there anyway. Fans, media, us, the board. That is frustrating to lose these games, but you need to look at it in a bigger picture that, okay, there's a reason behind it. It's different reasons, and there's solutions to add it as well. So we're working with solutions and how we're going to improve from that, and we still need to deal with emotions, because it's so boring to lose, but it's a part of the game, and that's why it's so amazing to win, because you hate to lose. So you need to have both.
Best of luck. Thank you, Robert.
Cheers.
Thanks, Chris. We'll go to Jamie.
Hey Robert, nice to see you. I just wanted to ask, Robert, the club just announced that the Everton game on the 8th of December is being moved an hour earlier to make sure the fans can watch both the men and women. I just want to know your thoughts on that, and how exciting it is that the club are kind of taking that on board and making sure that fans can tune into both.
Yeah, but I think it happened a few times when I came to England that we played at the same time, and you don't want to have a conflict between the men and women's team with the fans. So every time we can find ways to make sure this happens, it's of course very good for us, for the fans, and also showing that we make sure that we're fixing problems from the history. So I think if you can do that like we do now, it's a massive thing, because we want our fans on both games, and we want to make sure they can watch the women's team and the men's team. So I'm very happy that the club could fix this, because it's for the fans, and we want to have the fans at the games.
And I just want to ask on Martha Thomas, Robert, because she hasn't scored yet in WSL this season, and we saw her get off to a really fast start at the start of last season. Just what with Martha, I just want to ask, what is it behind the scenes with her right now? Because I think we know that what she's got, the potential she's got, and she seems to be playing a lot of positions. So just how have you been working with her to kind of get her confidence back up? Yeah, I think that's the tricky part. I remember as a striker as well that you give a player trust and they play well, but you don't score the goals. After a few games, it's another one knocking on the door. They want to play, and then it's like, where do you do a change? And when you start doing that change, you lose self-confidence, and so it's like it becomes a little bit bad circle until you get through it and score a few goals again. I think against Crystal Palace, the first game, she had a few chances. She was good. She didn't score. The second game, we were not amazing against Aston Villa away. Liverpool at home, she had some really good chances. She didn't score. West Ham at home, she had a great chance. She didn't score. So it's a mixture of the end product, but she's still a great player, and it's still like. But then you have the competition with Jessica Nass and Beth England. So it's very hard as a coach to find a way to just give the trust. You need to have a competition as well. And Martha is a player and a character you want to have on the pitch. So that's why sometimes you move her to a different position, because you can use her, and she's stronger than other players in those roles sometimes as well. So, but then of course you don't get the goals all the time. So in the perfect world, you don't do that. You start like last season, where she score goals, and she play all the time. But
whenever you are in a little bit lower, as a team-wise, and then you need to find ways. But we had 2 really good talks this week about scenarios, why she didn't play too much the last game, what we can use her strength. She looked good in training, so it's a tough thing, but it's also a good thing to go through tough periods as well. And I have the strongest belief that she can come back and score those goals for us. And to be honest, we need those goals as well. So for us, it's like how can we improve her to be in the right position when we have the crosses and everything, and then how can she find the self-confidence? Because in the national team she has it. She scored a lot of goals for Scotland right now. But on the other hand, they play easier games, to be honest, instead of the Women's Super League. It's a very tough league. So we need to find ways where she gets to the same spaces in our team and score those goals. But she had a great week, and I think she has a good chance to bounce back tomorrow.
Perfect. Thanks, Robert. Best of luck.
Cheers.
And we'll finish with Mikey.
Hi, Robert. I hope you're doing well. Obviously, you've managed to play some of the top teams in the WSL recently. You've conceded 7 goals in your last 2 games. I wondered, in your training sessions, have you prioritised defence given those large scorelines that you faced over the last couple of games?
I think after Man City, we were looking into how they scored the goals, and then we looked into details in box defending and that stuff. But actually, when we went to Arsenal and we lost that game as well, I was more like, we shouldn't fix problems. We should actually improve what we are doing as our identity. So we're focusing even more on the high press and make sure we are good with the ball, because I don't want to look into how can we defend better in the low part, because that's not us. We don't want to be that team. So of course we look into that as well, but we don't focus exactly much about that. We focus on the high press, the in possession, so don't lose the ball in the right moments and the wrong moments, and make sure we are not giving them too many chances that way instead, because I feel like we want to be a high pressing team. We want to be a team that dictates with the ball. So that's what we focus on mainly. But of course we focus on defensively set pieces and box defending as well. But the approach should be high press, good on the ball, brave on the ball, and attacking.
And with that ethos that you go into the games with, obviously in those 2 games you haven't scored any goals either. So do you put that down to a failure on the attacking part of the team, or do you put it down to a great defence from the teams you've been playing?
When you play Man City away, you don't have the ball too much. You have it for a while, and then those chances you get, you need to be very sharp. If it's set pieces or the 1-against-1. So if you look at it, we defend quite much, and we are down early in that game, so it's a little bit of the self-confidence. But yeah, the quality in the last third to break 1-against-1 or to get a good hit on the ball haven't been good enough. Arsenal last game, we had a few good chances. I think Bethany England's shot in the first half is a good shot. It's a great save. But obviously we don't create enough, and that's connected to who we play against, to be honest. If you expect us to create 10 chances against Man City and Arsenal, I come back to, you cannot expect that. You can hope for it, but we need to make sure that where we are right now, we need to score goals on those few chances we get in these games, because that's where we are right now. And we obviously don't do that right now, so we need to improve that. And that comes down to personnel and tactics as well. So we looked into both who should play and how do we address the spaces in the box when we crosses, for example. So this has been one of the main thing we looked at this week. How do we cross it, and where do we cross it, and how should we occupy those spaces in the right moment? Because sometimes we do a cross when nobody's there, or we do a cross in the wrong area when we have the people there. So we're trying to nail everything together and make sure we can be sharp in those situations.